So we have yet another film within the MCU universe, and let's just say it is the most different that we have seen by any means. Doctor Strange stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, and it starts off not how I expected. It instantly came off with the bad guy and an action scene and just hitting you right off the bat like, hey, this is where we're going with it, with all the stuff that goes on. I don't really want to go into too much details because I want you to visualize it and experience it for yourself, but just know it jumps right off the gate and gets into it. So after the very beginning of the battle scene, then it jumps quick to Doctor Strange. We see him in the operating room. We see him in action, and he's a doctor. You can already tell right off the bat he's a great doctor. He has an arrogance to him, a cockiness to him, but that's very understandable given how great of a doctor he is. Am I going to like him? Am I going to hate him? Are we going to be able to love him, want him to be our hero? I don't know. I think that was very important because you see the relationship between him and Rachel McAdams right away, and then you see his arrogance when he's driving in his car before he gets the initial accident to mess up his hands. You can see him swerving around cars. You can see he just doesn't care. He just cares about himself, and I think that was earned and does because it could have been like, oh, blah, that's just stupid. Why would he do that? He just hurt himself for no reason. But given his arrogance and the fact he just wants to do everything for him, you see him swerving around the cars. You're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So then when the accident does happen, you're like, all right, I can buy that. So after a while, we see Stephen Strange struggling with his hands issues, the fact that he's shaken, and this was very a surprise for me because I really just thought that they were going to go with the hands thing for a little bit and then just kind of scroll over it and be like, oh, let's never bring that up again, really, or just not even show how realistic and how detrimental it is to the character and how, his jump to go to the extremes. It actually stuck with it throughout the entire movie, and I thought like that was very important. So after dealing with his hand issue for a while and almost coming to the conclusion that his days as a doctor might be over, he finally realizes and comes across some people where he's like, all right, well, Western medicine's not working for me. Let's go over to the East and check that out. And that's where he comes across the Ancient One, Tilda Swinton, and there's some problems with that, the fact that whitewashing, oh, she's the Ancient One and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But as a character, she is awesome. Teach me. I don't want to really get into it because the way they went about it in the actual film, I was shocked. It just blew me away what I actually saw visually. So I don't really want to get into that, but just know that that part right there is not how I expected it to go. For the next half hour or so, you just see him learning the ways of sorcery and magic. Visually, this is amazing. I saw it in IMAX 3D, and you got things going all around. And in my opinion, I truly believe that based on the trailers, that all the buildings going around and everything moving, I felt like that was just going to be there to be cool and to just be for show. But it actually played into the story to where, it was part of the action scenes and people were doing it for reasons. So I really appreciated that because I definitely could have thought that could have been handled very poorly. So we have our villain by Mads Mikkelsen, and overall he was really cool. Once again, I was worried based on the trailer where you see he's got his little butthole eyes where they're all black there and it looks all crusty, and I really thought that was going to be just his look throughout the entire movie, and I was like, oh, that's just dumb makeup. But it actually, there's a reason for it, and it's actually explained and shown, so I felt like that was okay, and that didn't bother me. You really got over it probably within the first couple minutes of seeing it. So I've talked about nothing but good so far, so now I want to talk about the bads, because just like every Marvel movie, every superhero movie, every big studio movie, there is a lot of flaws. So surprisingly enough, none of the visuals were a problem. It didn't take away from the story or the total experience at all. If anything, it just amplified it very much more, and I have no problems with the visuals at all. Without getting any spoilers, what I do want to talk about as far as negatives is there's some time issues to where you don't understand how long it's been through each progression of the story, where it's like, okay, he's been doing this, but has been doing this for 10 minutes, has been doing this for 10 years, you don't really know, and that bothers you. It doesn't take away from the overall story because you get it, but it does kind of confuse you for a second where you jump to the next scene, you're like, oh, we can do this. How did he get to do it? Did he just learn it? Is it kind of BS? Blah, blah, blah. But overall, you're like, okay, the progression is well earned. It's just you don't really know how long it took to get there, so that bothered me a little bit. I wouldn't say that this is a major gripe or a major issue for me personally, but the reason that it could have been easily explained, or at least explained quickly, that I felt like overall it bothered me, and that's with Tilda Swinton's the Ancient One, the fact that she is white. I feel like they could have easily explained why she was white. As good as the character was, and as good as Tilda Swinton was portraying the character, I felt like it was earned her spot in the movie. So I think that just one or two lines, or just a little bit of dialogue explaining why she was white, that would have just paid off, but I felt like it didn't happen, so I did not like that. Those were some of my negatives for the movie. Overall, I really liked this movie. It was visually awesome. The story was a little bit better than I thought it would be. I thought it would be basic, but it had some tweaks to the formula of the MCU. But it followed the same guidelines, where it changed it up, and it was really cool. Everybody portrayed their characters very well. Chiwetel Ejiofor, he was also very good, and I felt like he was definitely a side character, but overall he played a good part, so that was good. Rachel McAdams, she played her character very well. Like I said, Tilda Swinton and Benedict Cumberbatch, they stole the show. They were terrific. Mads Mikkelsen as the villain, he was okay. He was good as his character, but he didn't really have much to do, but whatever. So all in all, I really liked this movie. It was a blast. It fit into the MCU very well. It was surprising that I was like, oh, how are they going to make this work? But there were some little nods and little, tidbits of how they were able to shoe that in. Plus, there's 2 post-credit scenes. There's a mid-credit scene and a very end post-credit scene. So stay for those to kind of get another idea of how they're going to shoe it in, because obviously that's just what Marvel does. But overall, it fits right in. I definitely really liked it. I am going to give it an A. You best believe I'm going to buy this on Blu-ray as soon as it comes out, because I'm going to want to watch it again on my TV. I'm going to want to be able to see it and be able to analyze even more little things. But seeing it on the big screen, seeing IMAX 3D, it was awesome. It was great to watch. The characters were great. It was surprisingly really funny. There were some moments where I was actually cracking up laughing. There were some moments that didn't work as well, but I mean, that's with almost any movie that's trying to be funny, especially if it's not a strict comedy. So, did you see Doctor Strange? How do you think it fits in with the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Where do you think it ranks up there? Is it in top tier, middle tier, or do you think it's one of the lower ones? Are you looking forward to the Infinity Wars and seeing how they're going to go about the story? The things like Tilda Swinton being white bother you? The comedy, do you think that was too much? Whatever. Comment all those things down below, and let's talk about Doctor Strange.